Hey everybody, JJ here with ASUS, and happy Friday. Excited to be able to kick off another PCDIY live show, and awesome to be able to have you guys here on whatever channel you're checking us out on, whether it's going to be YouTube or Facebook. Hey Michael, thanks for joining us. Happy to have you here on the PCDIY stream, man. Thanks for joining us here. We've got quite a number of things, a little bit of mix of everything in terms of this week's live stream, in terms of what we're going to be jumping into. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of the new Uefi updates that we've got, of course, for our motherboards that we normally jump into. We've got a couple of basic monitor announcements, going to be some great options for you that are looking for, I think, some low-cost options, but still nice quality, some offer flexibility in terms of ergonomics, in terms of adjustments, but definitely a lower traditional price point. Great for kind of an everyday monitor upgrade, IPS-based displays. We're going to be talking about our brand new build together and give together kind of campaign that we've kicked off, which is a really great kind of way to be able to advocate for, I think, the PCDIY experience that so many of us love in the community, as well as how we're also coordinating with 3 fantastic charities to be able to help them in their mission to be able to kind of be able to enrich the lives of the individuals that are affected through those charities. So that's also going to be something we're going to be jumping into, and we're also going to be jumping into some awesome community builds, as always, in terms of featuring your guys' builds in the PCDIY Builder Spotlight. So excited to be able to go ahead and kick that off there as well. So let's go ahead and get ready to kick off some kind of basic news and some basic points here. So give me 1 second here, and we will go ahead and jump into it. So first things first, I just want to go ahead and touch on some general UEFI updates. So in terms of UEFI updates, normally I post these in our PCDIY group. They're posted generally on Fridays. You'll find them in a formal announcement post that I have, and it'll list you pretty much all the available boards that we have for both Intel and AMD based motherboards. Now, one thing to keep in mind is as of right now, I haven't necessarily posted that update, but it'll be up just a little bit later today. There were probably in the range of, I believe, about 40 to 50 motherboards that were updated. And the vast majority of these are going to be AMD-based motherboards, and they fall under kind of our continued rollout of the latest AMD AGISA, the 1.2.0.3 release, or essentially the patch C, which is the latest release to help to improve overall USB interoperability, compatibility, and performance. There's a mix of different boards in there from, I believe, the X570 and B550 lineup. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and check the actual website, the support website for your corresponding model, or you can go ahead and jump into our PCDIY group and check out the announcement post for which motherboards we have with those corresponding updates. For the Intel side of the updates, I don't believe that there were actually any Intel-based updates within the UEFI updates for today. But as always, make sure to just go ahead and check that corresponding announcement if you have any questions on that side. So next, I did want to go ahead and actually touch on a couple of quick items. I've seen kind of some feedback in the community kind of asking about a couple of questions regarding availability on the actual ROG Spatha X, which is a product that we had talked about in a couple of streams previously, including our ROG wireless peripherals live stream. So if you're interested in finding out about kind of all the different mice that we have in terms of that lineup, you can make sure to check out that live stream. It's both it's on demand. You can check it out on Facebook. You can check it out on YouTube. But I did want to give you guys an update on some of those items. So first up is going to be the Spatha X. So this guy right here, if you are interested in picking it up, it is actually right now available on Amazon. So it has now gone ahead and been listed. It'll be rolling out to more e-tailers over the coming weeks, so you'll be able to see it at additional retailers. But if you're interested in picking up this guy, it is now available. So this is definitely going to be a larger mouse. It's going to be really well suited to individuals with much larger hands and really kind of want a lot of flexibility in terms of kind of the button layout. This is a wired and wireless based mouse, so low latency 2.4 gigahertz in terms of the wireless, or you can go ahead and utilize the USB-C connection. For some of you that might have originally used the original Spatha, it's pretty much been overhauled. It's an entirely new sensor. We also have gone ahead and revised the actual latching mechanism. It's stronger and tighter. There's improvements in terms of battery life. It supports RGB lighting in terms of sync operation mode. It still has the ability to customize the switches through essentially our RG push fit socket design and a whole lot more. So that model is available. Battery type, so yeah, the battery is actually integrated within that model. So essentially all you need to do is you dock it there to that actual system right there. Let me see if I can actually bring up the page for you, and it might be a little bit clearer in terms of kind of helping you understand the way that that model works. So give me 1 second here. I think I have Spatha X, I think I had it. Yep, that's right here. Okay, cool. And there we go. Okay, so this is the product page. You can go ahead and check out all the information, but you'll actually see right there, this kind of little docking station that it comes with is the way that it would actually charge. So you can pretty much just remove the mouse and then you can dock it back on there. Of course, you could also charge it via direct USB cable connection, but you see right here, this is actually really kind of one of the cool elements is that it has this really cool magnetic docking station where you can go ahead and just dock it in place and then it will charge via that. So this has been considerably improved in terms of this generation. As I noted, we revamped that kind of locking mechanism and the mounting mechanism, so it's more durable and it's more secure and it will stay in place. And you can actually see here that there's also LED indicators to let you know the difference between essentially the different modes that you're in and battery life indications and things along those lines. I'm a big fan of this mount, especially because, like I said, I'm a larger individual. I'm about 6'2", about 215, so I've got pretty big hands and I like to be able to have a little bit more surface area for where my pinky and thumb may rest. This is also similar to some other mouse that we have, like our ROG Chakram, or the Pugio 2, which have a little bit longer bodies, which are also well served for individuals that go a little bit more kind of with that palm grip style. You can see right here, 15-minute charge for up to 12 hours gameplay. Keep in mind the battery life is obviously going to be a little bit dependent on the level of RGB lighting and patterns that you kind of run. The RG micro switch, some people aren't aware of this, but you know, on our latest generation of mice, we actually have our own micro switch. And the really cool thing about this guy is that it has outstanding durability and performance. So it's rated up to 70 million clicks. The force deviation, which actually means the deviation in terms of click consistency between the left and the right, is tighter in terms of what we do for RG micro switches than what the industry does. So that essentially just means there's more consistency between both of the actual switches on the left and right buttons than you would traditionally find on a standard mouse. So it's like a little bit of a premium element. Electro gold plated electrical junction, and that's essentially just an internal mechanism to be able to improve the overall reliability and performance. But if you want to customize things, you can definitely go in and you can kind of swap things out. You can customize it and you know, go with a different switch. Maybe you want to go with a switch that is going to be a little bit less you know, crispy and audible, although I think that the RG switches have a really nice balance of being really crisp, consistent, and also having a nice audible feedback. But that's the cool thing about push fit socket design, is you can really kind of change out to all kinds of switches. Do I have my switch tray over here? I don't have my secondary B-cam set up, but you can actually see right here, this little tray, these are all kinds of different kinds of little micro switches. And so that's the cool thing, essentially, is that you could open the mouse up and you could swap out to a number of different types of micro switches. Some that have a little bit kind of a more damped feel, some that have a little bit of a crisper feel, some, you know, it's very similar to kind of like switches that you're going to have on a keyboard. Some people have certain preferences. MSRP is $149.99 on that guy, okay? And actually, along with that, I did want to actually touch on that we have a couple of other cool promotions that we do have running right now. So the next one is going to be the ROG Chakram. This one's actually on price reduction right now, down to $120. This is another really, I think, cool mouse that we offer within our lineup. It's going to be, again, support wired and wireless operation. It does actually also include this really cool this joystick right here that's on the side that actually will give you essentially different range of motion and adjustment. And it can be mapped for many different items. You can remove it if you don't want to utilize it. This model also does have Qi wireless charging support. So if you had like our ROG Batless and you wanted to put it on a charging mat, you could actually charge it via wireless charging support. It's got 3 different profiles. So you can do essentially USB-C as a wired connection. You can do 2.4 gigahertz, or you can pair it via Bluetooth, high quality optical sensor. And same thing like the other mice, is that this one also supports the ability to customize the micro switches. And this one also, just like all of our mice, we kind of been really sensible that there's like an internal docking mechanism right there, so that if you want to go ahead and be able to store the wireless adapter so you don't lose it, it essentially goes directly inside there. So that's one that we have currently on promotion. That's price reduced. I think it's that's price reduced $30, so it's a pretty nice savings. Next one is going to be actually a new mouse, and that's going to be the Gladius 3. This one's a really great deal. This one's essentially the same price right now as the wired mouse. So it's kind of cool. You can buy literally the Gladius 3, the wired or the wireless version for the same price. So I think that that's a really great bargain in terms of the overall value proposition. Gladius 3 is probably my favorite mouse in the overall lineup. It's got a really great balance in terms of its overall fit and feel, its weight distribution. This mouse is really special though, in terms that the Gladius 3 is the only mouse on the market that not only supports the push-fit socket design, but it actually supports both optical switches and traditional micro mechanical switches. So you can actually go in either or type of setup in that unit. And same thing, this one also has the integrated storage for the wireless adapter. 3-point adjustment, so you can go, 3 different modes of connectivity. So tri-mode, you can do USB-C, Bluetooth, or wireless. And again, entirely up to you in terms of how you want to go. It also comes included with the new ROG Paracord cable, which is our ultra light cable. It's really smooth, doesn't have any type of drag or resistance, very lightweight. I love utilizing that cable. We also have certification for NVIDIA Reflex, so if you're going to be stepping up to an NVIDIA Reflex monitor, like one of our PG series monitors that has that, you do actually have support for that. Very, very low click latency as well as on this guy. And then I think we had a couple of other promos that we're running. The Curious wire is also price dropped. This is going to be super lightweight. If you want to go really lightweight mouse, then the Curious wired is kind of going to be the direction for you. It is going to be a little bit more on that compact side, so I think it favors individuals that are going to be probably a little bit more, and I'd say that kind of claw fingertip type style grip. But again, if I've used it, and I think entirely you can utilize it, and even if you have a little bit larger hands, it just kind of depends on your overall grip style. But it is an extremely lightweight mouse, very high performance. 16,000 DPI, 400 IPS, accelerations 50G, 1,000 hertz polling. It has the ROG micro switch. It also has PBT buttons right here. So these buttons actually have like a PBT type implementation, same type of PBT that you would have like on a keyboard switch. So it's very resistant to kind of sheen and wear and oil. It's got a little bit of a nice kind of dual textured grip as opposed to the primary body, which is a little bit smoother. I'm a big fan of that, so that's kind of cool in terms of that regard. 62 grams, so it's extremely lightweight. Some people don't realize how lightweight some of our new mice are because we don't use a quote-unquote honeycomb external body where you can see essentially the weight reduction. We do it through a lot of material composition kind of enhancement, and internally on the inside, we've essentially kind of hollowed that out. But I think one thing that many people will appreciate is the quality and construction of the ROG mice is very, very high. So they feel really good in hand. So this one is also price dropped. And just 2 other kind of price alerts that we have here is going to be for the ROG Delta headset. That's this one. A lot of you guys, if you guys checked out the streams, it's my favorite headset that we have in terms of our lineup. This is a Usbc headset. It's price dropped from $115 now instead of normally $150, so that's a pretty nice savings. The cool thing about this is a native USB-C headset. So that means that if I want to connect it to my smartphone, to my Nintendo Switch, to my laptop, and my desktop, I literally have one cable that connects to all of them. And the other big part to this is that it has an integrated quad ESS Saber DAC and amp built into the headphone. And that's the reason why it uses a native USB-C connection. The advantage that you have with that type of connection is that the consistency for the audio that you're going to have at whatever device you're using is much better than generally an analog-based connection where you're dependent on the amp DAC implementation for that device. You can fully customize many elements of the sound signature and profile inside the Armor Crate software if you want to be able to customize that. It does support virtual surround. It has a detachable base microphone. Some cool things is that it does have nice flexibility, nice range of adjustment, very comfortable ear pads. It actually will come with 2 sets of ear pads. These ear pads right here, they can just pull off and you can swap them out. So you can go with ones that are very lightweight and have a high level of breathability but less isolation, to ones that have good breathability but they have more isolation and a little bit more kind of cushioning to them. And that kind of just depends on kind of what your preference is. I think definitely for kind of music and movies, most immersion, the isolation pads are really great. But if you're kind of gaming for really long sessions, you might prefer the secondary set of pads. But that's cool because a lot of headsets don't have that type of flexibility. You can't change that out. And I also do like the fact that you can remove the microphone so that you can kind of have it look like a traditional headphone. And you also do have in-on ear cup controls. So if you want to be able to adjust the volume, even turn off the lighting so that it doesn't necessarily look so gamery, right? When you're out and about utilizing those headphones, you can do that. So that is a nice headset there as well. Let me see right here. Hey, Zach, I haven't actually talked about the Ryujin 2 because there's no new updates in terms of that model. The last update information is already present in the product release calendar that we have within the PCDIY group. So for those of you who are not aware, the Ryujin 2 is our kind of high-end AIO cooler that integrates a 3.5-inch screen on it. It's a really, really impressive, very, very cool AIO cooler, and we're looking to launch it sometime next month. So just make sure to keep watching here to the PCDIY show, as well as to our corresponding social channels when we're actually getting ready to push that model out in terms of formal availability. We'll definitely be making sure to announce that. So hopefully that answers your question there. And then there's one other also deal promo that we have for the ROG Delta S. This is kind of not, I would say, the newer version. It's another version of the Delta that we have. So all the same things that I talked about, but this headphone does have a kind of redesigned frame. It's a little bit more compact, lighter weight by a noticeable margin. Different, actually, microphone designed with a larger capsule that's tuned for our ASUS AI noise canceling tech, which comes included with that headphone. So it does feature that. And that's going to be one of the really big differences. But the sound signature and tonality is a bit different. The standard ROG Delta, that headphone has a really, really solid kind of bass, low frequency response, or essentially bass performance. It's got some strong, clear, defined bass, really good mid-range, and solid treble performance. It works really well for kind of music, movies, videos, games. The Delta S still features that ESS Sabre DAC. It's a very neutral bass headphone. Sounds good, but it's going to be pulled back a little bit in terms of the bass response. Now, you can customize the bass performance in things like the Armor Crate software, but we've really kind of tuned and tailored the experience to give you really strong and clear and sharp positional accuracy when you're gaming. Because in some environments, you can have like explosions and other things that can kind of actually muffle kind of audio cueing and positioning. So if you're kind of really prioritizing picking up kind of the sounds within a game environment, that's where I think the Delta S will be a little bit more advantageous than you would see within the standard Delta. If you want to find out more, check out the actual live streams that we have that dive deeper into the Delta S and the Delta in terms of a comparison. And same thing with all these other peripherals that I've talked about earlier. We have a dedicated live streams that talk about the entire ROG wireless peripheral lineup. Okay, so that is, I think, all the promos that I have in terms of just kind of giving you some updates that we have some just great price drops. So again, some nice cost savings that you talk about when we have that, the Chakram, I think at that price reduction, the Gladius 3, it's a fantastic mouse, really a really outstanding mouse. And when you consider that it's literally the same price as the wired mouse, I think it's an absolute bargain in terms of the value that you're getting. And then the Keras is a fantastic ultra lightweight. And again, you know, some people aren't aware that we have an ultra lightweight design because we don't use a honeycomb based design externally, but 62 grams. So that is a super lightweight mouse if you really want to have that high level of kind of just throwing your mouse around, covering a lot of space, and really being able to kind of maximize movement in a kind of competitive online type game. So that covers us there in terms of those updates. So next up, I did want to kind of touch on something that we did talk a little bit earlier about at the very beginning of the stream, and that is going to be our Build Together, Give Together kind of campaign. So we kicked this off, and you can actually check out some videos on our YouTube channel as well as actually on our social media channels, which help to kind of dive into a little bit of what we're doing here. But the big thing here is that, you know, we want to continue to be able to celebrate and advocate the PCDIY experience. So we've been doing this kind of all year long, you know, in terms of kind of doing different types of campaigns and activations to be able to kind of showcase and discuss everything that is great about the PCDIY experience, whether you're going to be upgrading a system or whether you're going to be building a brand new system. And one of the cool things that we did here is we partnered to be able to provide visibility as well as support to 3 fantastic charities, Make-A-Wish, Gamers Outreach, and Child's Play. All 3 of those charities, we essentially have a coordinated effort that what we're doing is we're working with a lot of great partners from NVIDIA to AMD to Newegg to many others, and where we're asking individuals on their executive teams to be able to build a system that then they can coordinate and work with those charities to allow them to be able to do some exciting activities. And on top of that, of course, we do have other mechanisms in play. So if you actually want to be kind of part of this, what you can do and to find out more is you can actually just head over to our Build Together website, and you can actually see a lot of the work that we're doing here, and it's pretty cool. Let me see if I can go ahead and throw this up here. Give me one second. There we go. There we go, guys. Okay, so here's the site, and I'll make sure to go ahead and link into the chat for you guys. But you can see direct links to each one of these respective charities, how you can get involved. So from a basic perspective, of course, you guys joining in these streams, being part of our PCDIY group, being part of any part of the PCDIY community, you can use the hashtag build together, hashtag give together to be able to talk about kind of how you're, building, your system. You're getting support from the community, if you're asking questions, doing it with a friend, doing it with family members, kind of all the really cool things that kind of entail the PCDIY experience. On top of that, we also have information here in terms of how you can contribute and how you can support these charities that we're working with, whether that's going to be maybe donating a system you might have if you're upgrading that system and you no longer have use for that, maybe have certain hardware, same thing, you can inquire with those charities, see what's an option there, or of course you can monetarily be able to provide directly to those charities as well. And you'll see that we have updated kind of build logs that will be going up over time with all the great partners that we're working with to be able to showcase some cool systems that you can check out, be able to kind of get inspired by, be able to see what they're doing in terms of what was their approach and how do they integrate some really cool ASUS hardware in terms of their PCDIY narrative, and then be able to also see how these systems are going to be transitioned to these great charities. And there's links to each one of these respective charities with Make-A-Wish, Gamers Outreach, and Child's Play. So you'll definitely see a lot more about this over the coming days and over the coming weeks on our social media channels. So make sure to go ahead and check it out. We'd love to have you guys be part of this overall PCDIY experience and take advantage of giving us that feedback. And it's exciting to be able to do this. So very cool in that regard. So beyond that, now I want to go ahead and jump into a couple of new products that we have, and we'll go from there. So give me 1 second here, guys. All right, we got that closed out there. Great. Okay, so new products. We've got 2 new monitors that we're going to be launching shortly here. These are monitors that are kind of in that more kind of entry-level segment, but I think they're going to be great options if you're looking just something along the lines kind of like an everyday monitor that is at a very reasonable price point. Maybe you want a secondary monitor for like a basic system. Maybe like a friend or a family member has asked about hey, is there a good kind of low-cost option to just be able to have something that's got good color quality, good ergonomic adjustment, has a good warranty. Keep in mind that regardless from our entry-level monitors to our highest-end monitors, they feature a 3-year warranty. Many of the monitors, especially at a lower price point, if you take a look closer at the warranty information, they might only have a 1-year warranty. So I think that's a big benefit, especially with our more value-oriented monitors when you talk about kind of the price to the warranty offering that you're going to have available to you. So let's go ahead and take a look at these guys right here. So give me 1 sec. And we will jump into this. So first monitor is going to be our VA, and then we will talk about the VC. So let me just get these links opened up here. And the cool thing about both of these 2 displays is that they are both IPS-based displays. So I think that's definitely a plus point that when you talk about being able to upgrade to a display, you don't necessarily feel like you're going to have to be compromising on like the the color qualities, the off-axis viewing, or even I think the aesthetic design element, which is on both of these monitors, they look good. So let's take a look here at the first monitor. And this is going to be the VA series monitor. All right, great. Here we go. And so here you can see this is the VA24 DQSB. And one of the things that you might notice right off the bat is it's got, of course, very thin bezels. So 3 bezels that are very thin, and then a nice kind of clean, even bezel. And one of the key differentiators between this and the secondary monitor that I'm going to show you is that they're both the same in terms of essentially about a 24-inch display. They're both full HD resolution, and they're both IPS, but this one does feature an ergonomic-based stand. And so if you find that you want to have more flexibility in terms of kind of adjusting the monitor, then this is definitely going to be the monitor that you're going to want to take a look at. So if we take a look at kind of the key specification support, as I noted, 23.8 inches, essentially a 24-inch monitor, full HD, so that's a 1920 by 1080 resolution, IPS, very clean, nice, very thin bezel-based design, up to 75 hertz, which we've talked about in some of our previous entry-level monitors. Is a nice little update that we're bringing to many of our kind of lower price monitors, where you get that little bit of bump up. It's not a gaming-oriented display, of course, that we offer, with monitors that have 144, 165, 240, 280, 360 hertz. But it's nice to just be able to have that bump up and that better overall refresh rate. You also do have, of course, support for VESA mounting if you want to be able to go that route. And of course, our slew of eye care technologies. And essentially just what that means is you have different options there to be able to kind of customize the display experience. So if you want to make it more comfortable when you're reading something, maybe in the middle of the night, you can do that. Or if you want to be able to switch it into a different profile, which might be a little bit more punchy, a little bit more dynamic, then you can also do that. So that's all part of the on-screen display options that we have available. Because it's an IPS-based display, you've got good wide viewing angles. You can see a wide range of connectivity there with HDMI, DP, a USB hub, which is nice, and then also a line level audio output. So if you want to connect something like a set of speakers, or if you want to connect a headphone or a headset, then you can also do that. And you can also see that you've got the audio in. So you've got both options that are available to you there. And here you can see where I was talking about the range of adjustment. You have height, swivel, tilt, and pivot. And so pivot's nice again for maybe somebody that's looking for something basic productivity, a little bit of coding, kind of general use case, very solid option. So that is going to be the VA24DQSB. And I believe that guy is going to be coming in at 179 USD and then 229 Canadian. And you should be seeing probably this model show up sometime in about the next about 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the e-tailer in question. Okay, guys? And so, hold on. Before I get to the next monitor, I think I've got one other question right here. Is there any news on the new Crosshair Extreme for the UK? Hey, Robert, thanks for your question, man. Appreciate it. So we actually did cover a full live stream on the X570 series, including that Crosshair 8 Extreme model. So the one tricky thing always is going to be that for here, our PCDIY show is that we are based out of North America. And so we focus all of our release information to be specific to the North America region. So that would be for the United States as well as for Canada. When it comes to other regions, in terms of their overall availability and their pricing, you'd have to check actually with ASUS in that region. So I'd recommend reaching out to their social channels and see what their timeline is to actually bring this model. Some regions may vary actually in terms of carrying a model, or they might have a different distribution timeline. So we can't actually confirm for you if they will be carrying that model or what its price point will be or when that might happen. So just reach out to them via their social channels and you can do that. Now, in terms of kind of any technical information, product design information, you can always feel free to ask because, of course, that is going to be consistent regardless of where you are when it comes to the Crosshair 8 Extreme. But we do have a full deep dive live stream that covers pretty much all the cool elements about that board. And if you're looking to pick it up, it is an awesome X570 board, man. Thanks for being Team RG. So next up, let me go ahead and jump into our next monitor, which is going to be the VZ24EHE. So a little bit of a naming convention there, but we will go ahead and get into that model. So give me 1 second. And we'll get to that model right there. There we go. Next model up. And there we go. All right. You guys. So this is the next model here, and this one's going to be even at a little bit of a lower price. This one's going to be coming in, I believe, at 139 USD, so about $40 less than that than the VA series monitor that we just talked about, but very similar set of specifications: 23.8 inch, full HD, IPS, 75 hertz. The main differential here is going to be that base is not going to be an ergonomically focused base, so you're not going to have that range of adjustment in terms of tilt, swivel, pivot, rotation, all those kind of cool elements there that if you need that flexibility, that's why you would want to be able to kind of move over to that. There are some users that don't utilize that. They just kind of have it stationary there. They might rest it on something and it's going to be fine. So, you know, for many users, this is still going to be a great quality option. And a lot of the other key elements that we've talked about are going to be pretty similar. Now, this still does have a very, very thin profile, which is really nice, very compact. And it does have a little bit of adjustment option where you can tilt, which is nice in terms of compensating for a little bit of sometimes overhead reflective lighting. So that is going to be available to you. And you still get the on-screen display options like I talked about to be able to customize elements like that. So that is all present there as well. So this is going to be, again, another nice just entry option. If you're looking for a nice, good quality monitor that isn't going to cost you a lot of money, that's IPS based, I think this is a solid choice along with the other one that we just noted there. And again, same thing in terms of overall timeline for availability. You're going to be probably looking somewhere between about 3 to 5 weeks, and you'll start to see it pop up at different corresponding e-tailers, you know, whether it's going to be Newegg, Amazon, or any of other retailers. And once there's maybe an availability update, we'll make sure to go ahead and note that here in the stream as well. Yeah, Houston. Yeah, I mean, we of course, here on the DIY stream, we do cover a wide range of monitors, and some of you guys are super passionate about specific types of monitors, whether it's going to be products from our gaming line, or our ProEd series, if you're somebody that's more kind of a creative professional, or like I said, these are just kind of great options for an everyday type user. So we try to cover the entirety of our monitor lineup because what I've generally found is that. There's a lot of different scenarios when it comes to kind of what a user is going to consider in terms of what monitor they're going to use for what specific purpose. And, not necessarily everybody needs something like a, ROG Swift PG279QM or something like that, which is a fantastic monitor. But, if you don't necessarily need ultra high refresh rate, G-Sync support and all the great technology that monitor brings to the table, then, we've got a huge lineup. And so we'd like to try to be able to provide visibility to the rest of the lineup that we have. Hey, Winzard, that's an interesting question. So if you could expand upon actually what you mean in terms of is the Dark Hero BIOS coming to the regular X570 Hero? So to be actually a little bit clear, right? Some people have a kind of a misconception regarding, let's say, specialized features or functions. So an example of this might be Dynamic OC Switcher. Dynamic OC Switcher is a hardware-based and firmware-based feature. So you cannot just port it over to another motherboard because there's actually physical design elements along that are present on the Dark Hero that enable that type of functionality that you access through the Uefi environment. Otherwise, when you talk about pretty much all the other kind of key adjustable parameters in terms of tuning kind of aspects, we do try to make those essentially parity between, let's say, a Crosshair 8 Hero, the Crosshair 8 formula, the Dark Hero, and even the Extreme. When there's essentially, though, going to be specialized functions and features that are hardware dependent, they may be exclusive to the Uefi environment for that specific model. But if you have a specific question relating to something along those lines, feel free and let me know, and I'll see if I can go ahead and clarify for you. But at this point, pretty much all the Crosshair 8 series boards have a very mature Uefi, so they're going to overall be pretty consistent when it comes to the overall feature set and functionality that is available to you in terms of kind of what you can tweak and tune within the firmware environment. Okay, great. Fantastic. Glad to know that answered your question. So no problems there. All right. So next up, actually, I did want to go ahead and talk about the Uefi a little bit. So I saw kind of a couple of questions that came into our PCDIY email, and if you guys are interested in actually sending over an email, you can do that. I try to answer you guys' questions, whether it's in our PCDIY Facebook group or here on the stream. You can definitely go ahead and send in an email. It's pcdiy@asus.com if you guys are interested. But there was a couple of questions, and I thought, hey, let me actually take a little bit of a moment to show a couple of functions that sometimes some users aren't aware that we have in our Uefi environment. And these features have been actually there for some time, and they're available both on Intel and AMD motherboards. So let's go ahead and actually show you here a little bit what I'm talking about. Here we go. Okay, great. So the first one is that in some scenarios, what I've found is that some users kind of have some questions regarding how to tune their memory or a certain kind of correlation of confirming information. So when they first go about building a system, they might not necessarily realize that when they take a look at a DIMM module, the DIMM itself might have an actual sticker that will generally list things like the XMP profile. So this will have the frequency, the voltage, the timing information, the serial number information for it, a lot of values that can actually be important to you to help to know that if you enable the actual profile for that, what is the profile that you're actually looking for in terms of those values, right? And what ends up happening a lot of times is the users wait until they get entirely into the operating system to be able to kind of confirm these values. But you can actually do this all entirely within the Uefi. And if you're tweaking or tuning, take for instance on a Crosshair 8 board, which has let's say our Optimum M3 technology, this can be really useful to you because take for instance Optimum M3 can actually allow you to bring down the voltage for a certain actually frequency or for a specific timing, or in the opposite direction as well, increase the voltage to be able to actually extend frequency or to actually reduce timings. There's a couple of different permutations, but ultimately the thing is knowing where you're starting from is the key part. And so you can see right here in terms of the Uefi screenshot that I'm showing you here is that we have what we call an SPD tool. So you can actually go into the Uefi section, go to the tools, and you can see right there that it'll actually list to you the manufacturer of the memory module. Here you can see it's a Corsair module. It gives you actually all the production information, and it gives you the profile tables as well as the SPD table. So you can actually see what the minimum operating parameter is for your memory, the corresponding XMP profiles. And so then from there, if you're then going to kind of manually tune things, as opposed to maybe using one of those profiles, you have that information available to you. So it's a pretty cool tool. Not a lot of people I see consistently utilize it. So I just essentially wanted to make you guys aware of it. Another cool tool that you're going to see within the UEFI that can be advantageous is our Smart Information tool. This essentially helps to pull information from your HDD or your M.2 based SSD. Now, in some scenarios, you might have an application in Windows that will let you actually gain access to this information. So you can install the program. Take, for instance, like Samsung, Western Digital, Crucial, they all have Intel, they all have actually utilities, but there are some manufacturers that produce great quality drives, but they don't have a Windows utility that you can install that essentially lets you access information about your drive. So here, this is kind of a cool way that you can help to verify how your drive is operating. And generally, if your drive isn't operating to essentially the highest level, and it would get flagged because one of the smart values goes into a what's called breach status, or essentially a value that is not known in terms of being kind of safe or reliable, then the UEFI can potentially advise you of that. Ideally, what you want to try to do, though, is compare that to the metrics that the manufacturer advocates as far as being safe and reliable. But the cool thing is that we're at least giving you a basic tool that you can glean some of that information from. So if you want to be able to reference that, you can, again, go into this section and you can see some information regarding your drive. And then also to this, I've had a couple of people inadvertently have some issues where when they have multiple drives, especially drives that are the same drives, they kind of can sometimes get confused if they're doing certain things in terms of kind of like reinstalling a drive, formatting a drive, doing any number of different things that you might do to one of your drives. And many users actually aren't aware that we offer renaming for the drives. So you can go into the UEFI and you can see, like right here, M.2 drive 1, right? I can actually rename that. So instead of it just being listed arbitrarily as that, I can go ahead and type in, and I could call it Windows, or if I wanted to call it, like, Steam library, or if I wanted to call it, photos, or if I wanted to call it videos. Whatever I might want to call it, I can go ahead and label that for my drive. And now when I'm in the UEFI, that might be a little bit clearer to you in terms of actually knowing which drive you're in. Because of course, when you do this in Windows, it can be clearer because you can, of course, rename your drive volume to whatever you want, whether, it's a C drive, and then, like I said, changing it over to something else that is more clearly discernible to you. But again, this is a cool function that you have available to you. Hey, Mike, fantastic. Thank you so much for that great feedback. iCare in itself doesn't necessarily help to improve the picture. A lot of that comes down to, the specifications in terms of the panel, but where iCare can be, I think, really advantageous is in terms of giving you different options so that you can have customizations to kind of tailor the monitor to try to get the best experience, especially a more comfortable experience. A lot of us, if you're looking at your monitor late at night, you're reading email, you're kind of watching videos, you might not necessarily have to have the absolute best color fidelity. So maybe it's nice to be able to kind of shift into a blue light reduction mode, right? Which is going to be a little bit softer in terms of its output and be a little bit more comfortable for long-term viewing. There's also even alternate options that I take advantage of, like in our Game Plus or options. Take, for instance, like on a gaming monitors, where you can actually have like a sharpening and edge enhancement that actually can provide a nice little improvement to certain things on screen. So it's one of those things that sometimes, when we're looking out for a monitor, we're always looking at kind of core specs, but we're not necessarily looking at kind of usability or experiential items. And this is where sometimes spending a little bit of time to kind of go through the on-screen display can be advantageous. So thanks for your feedback, Mike. Nice to definitely know that. So with that, guys, not too much else in terms of any new product updates. Definitely, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to go ahead and chime in. I will do my best to go ahead and get to those. If you guys do have questions, more than willing to be able to go ahead and answer them if I can. But what I did want to go ahead and get ready to kick off here is our PCDIY Builder Spotlight. So for those of you that are not aware, the PCDIY Builder Spotlight is essentially where we showcase your builds. These could be builds from, fantastic members in the kind of the mod and the kind of the custom PC building community, but they're also first-time builders. They're also builders that have been building, like myself, for years. And it can be everything from a small form factor build to a water-cooled build to an air-cooled build. It doesn't matter. So if you're interested, all you need to do is join our PCDIY Facebook group. There's a submission form. You can drop in your system, and you can be featured here on, the stream, which is going to be hosted on both our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel. Soon to be, we'll be spreading out on some other channels as well. And we may actually even be looking to extend out and place actually some of these recognized builds on our PCDIY website. So overall, a great way to kind of be able to show off your cool system in terms of what you put together. So let's see what we've got for this week, guys. Let me go ahead and bring up our first build here. And also go ahead and drop a link in the chat if anybody is interested in terms of actually checking out our PCDIY group. If you're not aware, essentially what we do there in the PCDIY group is it's a community where I post information for our PCDIY enthusiasts. It covers pretty much all kinds of our products, from our monitors to motherboards, graphics cards, peripherals, networking equipment, pretty much everything under the sun when it comes to that. So if you want to find out about the latest products, availability announcements, insights in terms of tweaking and tuning and setup and configurations, you want to get build reference information, guides, and a whole lot more, make sure to check out the group. It's a great space. Hey, yeah, yes. So we actually are doing a simulcast, so you can check it out on YouTube or you can check it out on Facebook. Either which way, we're hoping to probably next week we'll extend it also to our Twitter channel. So hopefully wherever you might be at, you can hopefully check this out. But if you're not watching it live, they are auto archived, so you can totally watch them on demand. And hopefully moving forward, we'll have timestamps also embedded within the streams to make it a little bit easier so that everybody can kind of know. If I'm interested in a specific topic, I can kind of just jump to that portion there in the stream. But thanks for joining us here on the stream, man. Appreciate it. So let's go ahead and bring up our first build. So let me see what we got here. I think it's going to be, let's go with a GT Limbs build. Okay, I think this is a pretty sweet build right here, guys. And for somebody that asked actually about the, the Ryujin 2, he actually has the Ryujin 2 installed in his system. So here we go. So we got a nice kind of external shot right here that looks pretty cool, guys, in terms of kind of the overall look and feel for the system. And you can see it's got this kind of cool red and black aesthetic to it. You've got the Lian Li Unifans, I believe, that are on here. You've got the Ryujin cooler, and then you have an ROG Strix 30 series graphics card in that horizontal profile, so it shows off that RGB light bar. And then you've got some nice dims that are also in red accent too. And I like here too that you can really nicely see, of course, the ROG accent there that's on the IO shroud, right? That comes off nicely there. The tubing is floating underneath the DRAM, so that's a nice setup there so that it doesn't necessarily pass over the DIMMs. Sometimes I see some builders, they'll set it up in a scenario where either the AIO is kind of flipped around and it's coming over and it's actually kind of obstructing some of the field of view on the IO shroud, or kind of they just have the cable directly running over the DIMMs. This is kind of probably about my favorite type of implementation because it's got a really clean design. You can see he's got the cool ROG eye animation there in the center of that Ryujin, which is a big screen. Again, that's a 3.5-inch screen, so it's pretty massive. It's actually, to my knowledge, it's the largest screen that exists right now on an AIO cooler. And then you can see just overall really clean setup. And then he's got some nice braided cables that then run down there from that 3080 card. So overall, a very, very cool system. So let's go ahead and just quickly run through. The name of the build is the Dark Hero. 3 words to describe the system: dark, mysterious, and hero. It's going to be featuring a 5900X, a Crosshair 8 Dark Hero, a Ryujin 2. It's actually not a 30 series graphics card, excuse me. It's a full AMD-based build. So this is actually a Radeon 6800 OC. So he's taking advantage of, AMD Smart Access Memory technology there, kind of fully integrating, an AMD CPU, AMD motherboard, and AMD graphics card all in one system. Antec Katana memory that he's got running at 3600 megahertz. 1 terabyte M.2 SSD, and then a 750 watt power supply, and that's all inside of a Corsair 4000D airflow chassis. About $3,200 for the actual cost of the system. You can definitely see it was all about maintaining kind of that ROG red and black kind of color theme and aesthetic. And he's, one of his goals was to probably update this to a 4-DIMM configuration versus a 2-DIMM configuration, and mainly focused here at playing some games like Cyberpunk, Forza, Dota 2, Apex Legends, and CSGO. And his favorite feature is Armory Crate. So kudos, man. GT, very, very cool build. It gets a solid thumbs up from me, man. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at, I believe, Jaylene is the name of our next builder. Give me one sec, guys, here to load this one up here. It's a pretty cool build. It's got an interesting design aesthetic here. All right. Oh, this is pretty cool. I like this. It's in a compact. Of course, we can see a mini ITX. It's got some really cool kind of pastel blue vibes here with that nice white, and then of course the board, which has got the black aesthetic to it. So you've got nice contrast and complementary set of colors. Let's go ahead and pull this out and go a little bit bigger here. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a nice shot. I like kind of the different color vibes that we have going on here for this system. Got some a lot of tight kind of tubing work that's going on here. And then it looks like we've got some Royals, and then we of course have a riser implementation here for the card because that makes sense. An overall pulled back shot with some nice little lighting there. It's a cool system. Definitely, mini ITX is definitely, it's not as popular as an ATX based systems, but it's always cool to be able to see what the approach of a small form factor builder is. Sometimes they try to figure out a way that they can show off items, and we have seen, at least over the last couple of years, we've seen a little bit of an increase in terms of some chassis allowing for kind of a little bit more of an open frame type concept, where the vast majority of a clean, nice, minimal box, which can look great if you're looking for that type of design aesthetic. But I know many, really the trend is kind of being able to show off the entirety of your system and kind of the range of the components. So that's the cool thing that you kind of get here with this open frame type design, where you have the ability to kind of show off your hardware. So overall, a cool system, Jaylene. Let me go ahead and bring up your submission form, and we will see what we got going on here. So give me one second. Not your first build. Hydra build is the actual name of the system right here. Super compact PC, 3 words to describe the system. Let's go ahead and see here if we can take a look at the components. So this is running a 10th gen series CPU, so a 10700K. It's an ROG Strix Z590-i gaming board, so that's our latest generation mini ITX board. Absolutely fantastic mini ITX board. Seriously packs in a huge amount of features and functions on board. Really, really impressive board. You've got 32 gigabytes, of Trident Z Royal memory. You're also running an Asus Ekwb water-cooled graphics card. That was a fantastic card that we collaborated with EK, where actually they shipped directly from the manufacturer with the actual water block already installed. We no longer offer that card, but it was great for the limited time that we did have available. So really cool that you're actually able to pick one of those cards up. Running a 2 terabyte M.2 SSD that you've got in there, all powered via a CM 850 watt power supply. Hydra Mini chassis, and then it looks like you rounded pretty much out all your water cooling hardware with EK. So you got some Vadars X3Ms, the Quantum Torque HDC, and the Velocity, of course, for the water block, and then the X3 150 for your reservoir. Overall, very, very cool system. Thumbs up. I'm definitely like it. It's a very cool, compact system. I like the color scheme and choice there. I like that it's got the different vibe totally with it, when you're not in kind of a little bit of the RGB vibe. You have, a different kind of cooler color aesthetic that you have there. So here we can go back, so very, very cool. Yeah, so we actually didn't touch on the PG279QM. We actually already touched on it in last week's live stream in terms of general availability, but the monitor has begun to push out in terms of channel availability. So you will essentially start seeing it popping up at e-tailers. I believe it might have actually already listed up at one of the e-tailers But you will see essentially that be happening over the next coming days. So you know, all you need to do is pretty much be active in terms of looking at you know, any of the leading e-tailers. I think I noted like Best Buy Canada, Amazon, Newegg, Micro Center. They will all have the monitor. Some users have looked at our kind of ASUS e-store and thought, hey, it sold out really quickly. We had only a limited number of inventory that we listed to our e-store because we prioritized really wanting to make sure that the broader availability is spread throughout our channel partners. So you do want to go ahead and check out those corresponding e-tailers. And we already have kind of coordinated that we'll continue to be ramping up availability as we move into the fourth quarter. So yeah, you're pretty much covered there. And again, if you have any questions, anybody wonders about product availability, one of the best things you can do is not only check out the streams for availability information, look at the description information if we're touching on a specific model that has been previously announced. But if you're also part of the PCDIY Facebook group, you'll see that we have a product release calendar where I update it generally about on a 10 to 14 day basis with new products, as well as updates in terms of kind of projected timelines for availability. All right, guys. So very cool build, Jolene. Awesome. Kudos. I like what you did there. Next up, we've got a very cool build from Derek Wilson, Rhodes PC. This is a very, very cool kind of customized system that's got a very cool, let's say, sci-fi inspired theme. So let's go ahead and take a look at this build here. Oh, 1 second here. Some of these images, Derek hooked it up, but he hooked it up with some very high resolution images. So I need to make a quick adjustment here to make sure that the images are small enough so that I can share. There we go. Okay, guys. Very cool. So here we've got him at work, and this is actually already one of the telltale signs you can see. So there's some actually modding and some customizations happen here with some custom artwork that actually went onto the side of the chassis itself. And I'm sure you guys, let's see if anybody can guess in the chat what the theme of this system is before I tell you what it is. So you can see right here. Let's go ahead and take a look. And there's some additional clues right there. Let's see if anybody gets it. No problem, man. Anytime. And like, again, if you have if you're wondering about anything more specifically on that, you can actually go back and check out last week's live stream where I dived in a little bit more specifically in terms of availability on that. I believe the model was specifically tagged in there. So no problem. Very, very cool. This is a cool shot. You can see he's got a little bit of that kind of open frame design. I like this little strap that's going on here in the front as well. And here we can see, Mike, you got it. You nailed it. So yeah, so if anybody was wondering what was the theme there, that is correct. So we've got a Star Wars theme, Mandalorian theme. It's cool. It's got definitely a cool and different aesthetic here. So let's go ahead and take a look here and see what we're going in. So yep, the theme of the system, the name of the system would be the Mandalorian. 3 words to describe this build: bounty hunting machine. So this is actually a personal build that he'd been wanting to do actually for some time after watching The Mandalorian show. And so he really kind of fell in love with the overall tone and the materials. And so that's actually one of the things here. I'll see if I actually can save one of the photos that he actually shared here, but it was a little bit high res. So let me go ahead and see if I can resize it down quickly. But there's some cool elements. Like the strap, of course, is like, Star Wars has a really interesting kind of element to it, that sometimes what you see is that you see kind of this interesting dual texture where not everything is necessarily super hyper polished, right? You have stuff that looks aged and dated, and there's also sometimes different types of materials that are a little bit kind of more earthy, or some people would perceive it as natural, so something like leather, right? And so you can see that here there was some customization in that regard to kind of be able to have that be invoked. And so I think that's pretty cool in terms of being able to do something like that. So let me see here if I can show you guys that. There it goes. It's loaded up in there. And we'll show that image. So give me 1 sec here. There we go. And we can see right there, Here's actually, of course, some of the cables up close. Really nice kind of color scheme that we have right there. And then, of course, you can see some of the custom leather work that's also that's there. So that's pretty cool. It's nice to be able to see those kind of attention to detail and be able to kind of craft something that you feel that you kind of have a connection to and an overall experience with. So it's the lithium chassis by Uefi. Brushed nickel finish on it to simulate actually the Beskar armor, which I would agree, that's cool. It's got like a little bit of a different vibe there, and added the light leather to the PSU shroud to give it the look, right, of kind of clothing beneath the armor. Also a small leather strap in the front, right, that is also kind of aligning there with the imagery that you see within the show. Z590-A is the motherboard. A fantastic board for this system because it's going to really give you a wide range of all the best features that we have right now for kind of a gaming focused system. It's got that cool, nice, distinct aesthetic, which aligns a little bit more here with that kind of silver tone that we want, especially with kind of the Beskar armor vibe kind of thing. So I think that that works out really well. He's also a big fan of the actual AI overclocking technology, which he was able to actually push CPU to 5.3, 5.4 gigahertz in terms of usage, with it really much doing nothing, right? He just had to put the cooling in play, enable the AI overclocking, and be good to go. And then from there, let's just see here, he's got a kind of a mix of some of the hardware, EK cooling parts alongside the heat killer radiators, helped, of course, keep everything nice and cool. It's a 3090 graphics card, and the CPU that's running on that Z590-A board is an 11900K. He still actually has more work to do, so it's not 100% finished here. He's been working on it for definitely months, but hopefully, you know, he'll have it wrapped up in the not too distant future. But overall, you know, from start to finish, once he actually got it kind of working, was about a week's worth of time. And so he uses it for pretty much everything. This is a personal build, so video, photo, editing, and gaming. Some of the games he's playing: Death Stranding, New World Beta, Ashes of Creation, and Star Wars Squadron. So, and he's actually a fan of the Armory Crate software, which allows you to kind of tweak and tune, of course, all your RGB on your system. So, very cool, man. Thumbs up, man. That's definitely a cool kind of mod and a cool experience that you were able to kind of evoke there. So, kudos to you there. So next up, we've got a build here from Connor. So let's go ahead and take a look at his box. This is a cool system because he also gave us that kind of before and after. I try to ask people in the community when possible to share their build information and make sure that it includes, when possible, kind of like a before and after, especially if it's got RGB, because, you know, personally, the way I kind of see it is that a system can have a very different vibe when it's lit and when it's not lit. And you can definitely see that here. So the first thing you'll notice is definitely he's rocking a vertical mount on the GPU. I'm a fan personally of a horizontal mount. I think that it shows a better layer of kind of depth and consistency between a board and a graphics card, but I know some people just like the way a graphics card looks vertically. So that's the great thing about PCDIY. It's, you know, it's ultimately up to you. It's your choice. So let's go ahead and kick it on here, and it's cool. You can definitely see you got that difference between it being not lit up and then definitely being lit up. He's going with that classic red and black vibes that evokes RG. You can also see that it's got red and black cabling there that he's utilizing. Overall, pretty nice, pretty cool. I like the little RG accent right down there in terms of the RGB eye. And I think we've got one more image here. Sorry. There we go. And there's your full system setup shot, which is really cool. I like this probably, it goes well in terms of the motif here. I think where he's driving a little bit kind of like this synthwave kind of purple type vibe. It's got a nice, cool aesthetic to it. The only thing I would probably say is probably try to tweak and clean up that line a little bit on the AO cabling, is sloop a little bit more underneath the DRAM, just so that it's a little bit of a cleaner look, just between the RGB eye that's there on the actual cooler and then floating underneath the DRAM. But otherwise, it's a really cool setup. Overall, I think it looks really nice. It's clean, it's well and clean and well executed. Let's go ahead and see what you were rocking here in terms of kind of your core system. So name of the system is actually called Rose. Packed, racked, and jacked is 3 words to describe the system. We can go with that. Let's see, as far as what he's rocking here in terms of hardware, a Ryzen 7 2700X. He is using the ROG Strix Lc Cooler. The Lc Cooler is one of my favorite coolers. It's got a cool RGB logo on it. We just actually released not too long ago the version 2, which has a little bit of a revised logo, but a really nice, easy AIO to integrate, especially if you want RGB lighting, and it's all controlled directly through the motherboard and through one piece of software. You don't need secondary controllers or anything like that. I'm a big fan of the Strix LC series. ROG Strix B450-F gaming board, very, very solid board. Has had tons of UEFI update support to literally be able to support 2000 series, 3000 series, and even 5000 series CPUs. Very solid board. ROG Strix 750 in terms of that he's rocking for PSU. Man, thanks for being Team ROG and Team Strix. He's also running an ROG Strix 5700 XT. That's a nice little GPU combination there, solid for 1080p and 1440p gaming. It's got 32 gigs of 3200 megahertz memory. It's in a Lianli LandCool 2 mesh chassis. He's got some ML120 fans. He's also running a Corsair Commander, a kind of RGB integration there with the Commander Pro fan controller and the node. Cable Mods vertical GPU bracket, and then Cable Mods red and black sleeve cables. And then peripherals wise, you can see right there he's rocking the ROG Strix Flare keyboard, but it looks like he's probably putting keycaps on there. He modded it actually with some different switches, very interesting, and some GNK stabilizers. I'd love to find out what your experience is like there, kind of making those kind of customizations. Favorite aspect of the build is this customized keyboard. Although the wife's not the biggest fan of the clacketiness and the clickiness that he's got there. Goku Black, in terms of kind of the, yes, there's a theme, which is Goku Black. And then is there anything that you would want to change on the system? And maybe kind of tweak up the cables and go with full-length customs instead of just extensions. That always just makes the routing a little bit cleaner, a little bit tighter, but it's not definitely a requirement. Took him about a month overall in terms of kind of getting everything together, especially kind of having to stock out getting the GPU when he put the system together. And mostly what he does on the system is gaming. So he's doing Destiny 2, Dungeons & Dragons, Grand Theft Auto, Doom, and a few other games. So overall, he's a big fan of the ROG kind of aesthetic, and he enjoys the overclocking capability of our products and the overall quality, man. So thanks, man. Connor, very cool build, and man, best of luck to you, man. Very cool. So next up, let's see who we got. Oh, all right. We're going to one of my absolute favorite builders in the game again, and that's going to be Snef. Amazing builder. I mean, most of you guys are generally aware, of course, of what Snef brings to the table in terms of just an attention to detail and a polish and execution that's fantastic. This was a really cool build because this was a build that was actually done for a significant other. And I think that, you know, as always, he kind of hit it out of the park here. I think the execution, the fit, the finish, the feel is outstanding. I love the way that this came out. And it's just an awesome build. So, of course, you can see here we've got kind of the driving kind of color aesthetic here is going to be kind of white, silver, and then that pink to be able to add that really nice pop and accent there. And then you can see some nice, just kind of soft kind of lighting that's built in there through the RGB to just kind of elevate it and just give it a little bit of kind of fill there, right? Which I think looks really, really nice. Hey, PG32UQ, no problem. So we've actually talked about this in the past. Right now, it is still actually a pending monitor. If you want to actually be kept up in the loop on this monitor, make sure to join the PCDIY Facebook group and check out our product release calendar. But we are looking for kind of a more kind of a concrete in terms of availability release information sometime next month. So we'll definitely make sure to cover that specifically here on the PCDIY stream on Fridays when there's actually going to be a release target and all that corresponding information. But I would say it's even being more quickly if you're part of the group, because I'll have a formal post announcement that'll let you know, hey, this monitor is coming in, this is the timeline projected, and kind of all the specifics there. And like I said, if you're also tracking the product release calendar, I generally update that about every 10 to 14 days, and that will have the corresponding kind of target release date that we're seeing. But we expect to have more information specifically on that monitor towards probably the middle end of September. So great monitor, and I know a lot of people are waiting for it. All right, guys. So yeah, here we can see, of course, a nice kind of shot right there. You can see the vertical orientation on the GPU. And I think that for kind of the goal here in terms of wanting to show kind of this silver, white, and kind of pink flare, even though I tend to favor more of a horizontal mount, this chassis has also got a little bit of a different configuration. So this is kind of the suited type of design aesthetic. So I think it works well in this regard. And again, it's also got a really cool kind of level of integration going from the CPU to the GPU to the custom distro that you've got there at the bottom. So overall, some just really cool design work that SNEF has put in. And that's the thing that's always, I think, impressive here, right? Is that it almost looks like it's designed to kind of go together in that way. And that's one of the best things I can ever say for a builder, is that when they pull off kind of that level of integration, when it looks kind of natural, quote unquote, or it's the way that it was supposed to be, I think one of the best, feedback points that you can provide to somebody. So here you can see some really, really nice, tight, and super clean cable management work. Some nice, of course, custom cables there that align with the color scheme. I think that's the Nighthawk memory from Team Group, but it's in white, which nice. It's got a really cool, it's hard because you see this in a photo, but it's got a really cool kind of cool trail effect that works well on those dims that I think would really complement this build. Of course, we've got the EK hardware that's in there. Nice custom work there. There you can see the distro pate that there is on the bottom. And of course, even look at that, the nice premium, of course, hard cable comes in there, a bridge design. Looks fantastic. Overall, a really stunning build. I absolutely love this build. I think it's fantastic. So let's go ahead and check it out here. So Fluoris 2, I guess this is the follow-up here in terms of the system. 3 words to describe: clean, color pop, and vertical tubing. I would definitely agree with that. What's running here in the system, it's an Intel Core i9 10900K. He's got it on an ROG Strix Z490G board, so that's a micro ATX motherboard, not a mini ATX board. And I can tell you he modded this board because it's custom painted. That board is black, but he actually painted it white, so to be able to align there with the theme. It's got then a tough RTX 3080, which you can see is water cooled, and then of course it's got the Vector Tough Gaming water block from EK that's on there. I was correct in terms of the Team Group Nighthawk memory there, 32 gigs. He's also got Team Group M.2 SSD, 1 terabyte in there, 850 watt SFX power supply from Cooler Master, Cable Mod Pro custom cables that are in there, and that's all inside of an 011 Mini Snow Edition, and then all EK hardware throughout. So that pretty much is going to be your blocks, your reservoirs, your distros, all of that is all going to be EK. So very, very cool setup. Not necessarily sure as far as total budget there. He's most proud of the distro, the tubing, and the loop. He wanted the kind of the tubing and the layout to be different than a lot of the other 011 builds. And I agree. I think going with the horizontal tubing design, especially kind of from the route coming from the CPU to the GPU to that bottom mounted distro, it has a very different vibe than what you traditionally see with the vast majority of the 011s out there that have a kind of water cooling setup. So the first build that he completed in terms of the first was made to match the pink line of accessories that we actually produced. But you know, he was just looking to be able to update it, but also still have it be kind of complementary to that. So that's where the pink ties into those pink accessories. So I think it really works well there, but it still has this really nice, bright, and dynamic vibe to it. So that's pretty cool. Nothing that he would like to change. Overall, he's really, really happy about just the way that it came out. Took him overall about 40 to 50 hours, including the design of the distro plate and then testing it out, making sure that everything works correctly. And then predominantly used for gaming. So she's playing some Destiny 2, Rainbow Six Siege, Horizon Zero Dawn, and then a few other FPS titles. And big fan of Armory Crate in terms of just kind of simply being able to manage everything in terms of all your key information, as well as your kind of RGB controls. So SNEF, man, again, you rocked it. Fantastic build. She's super lucky. It's an awesome build, man. Kudos. All right, here. So next up, we've got a build from Andrew. So let's take a look at his system. Okay, so let's see here. All right. So here we got the kind of before or the non-illuminated shot. Pretty evident here that we're going to see that this is a water-cooled system. Oh yeah, very interesting, very cool. It's got a very kind of transparent effect, that nice soft blue illumination throughout. I love the fact that the tubing did not go over that ROG IO shroud, so that has a bold, clean, discernible visual. And I think here again, when I talked about not having a vertical based GPU, you can kind of see that it adds a layer of depth and separation between there, where the kind of the base radiator with the fans and the kind of the bottom portion of the board, giving a little bit of kind of just depth that's in there. So you play around a little bit visually to not have as much kind of pressure sometimes in terms of the build and setup. But and, you know, it really all depends on kind of what that goal visually, what the intent was. Did you want to kind of show off specific pieces of hardware? Did you want there to be kind of a focal point? Here, I think it's a really well balanced system, and you can see there's a massive amount that's going on here in terms of just not only the number of fans, but the radiators, then the integration of the distro plate and the tubing. So a lot of work has been put into the system right here. We can see it here, of course, he's using the Armory Crate software to tune that all in. Very clean, very well executed. This is very nicely done. So let's take a look, Andrew. Not his first build. The name of the system is Black Ice. Powerful, clean, and quiet. So he's got in here in terms of the setup, it's going to be a 5950X and an ROG Strix 3090. He is running two 4 terabyte M.2 SSDs. He's got 128 gigabytes of CL16 3600 megahertz Trident Z Neo. So this is a serious system in terms of kind of the performance, the feature set that you're having here. Overall, especially when you consider those SSDs, the 3090, the GPU, the motherboard, and the water cooling alone that you can see here in terms of all the blocks, the tubing, the fittings, the rads, all that stuff, and the peripherals, he was looking at about a $10K budget here. Overall, he's just super pleased and proud that he was able to put together this whole system and have it look, I think, this type of clean polish and execution, which definitely I think fits. It didn't have kind of an overall theme, but you know, I think that you can definitely see that it's got a clean, bright, dynamic, and kind of bold visual to it just because of what it has. Is there anything that he would change about it? He's thinking actually that he might even upgrade and go to the Crosshair 8 Extreme and then add more SSDs. And actually, he makes a note that he's already ordered 3 more 4 terabyte NVMe SSDs, because the Crosshair 8 Extreme supports up to 5 M.2 SSDs. So that overall is going to be a lot of drives, a lot of solid speed storage, man. Kudos. I'm a little bit envious in terms of that type of configuration. How long did it take him to build the system? 8 hours, which I will say that's pretty impressive, because that's a lot of work there, and it's very clean and well executed, man. So kudos. What does he use the system for? Software development and gaming, Warzone, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and maybe some other kind of FPS-centric games. And his favorite kind of ASUS features are, again, also Armory Crate. So great way for him to be able to kind of customize the lighting profile. And I'll say that's the cool thing here with this type of system, and the tubing and the color and kind of the transparency decision he went with. You could easily switch this up into a different color scheme if you want to go in red, purple, pink. You want to even have rainbow. You know, whatever you want to have a multi-point gradient on this type of system, I think really lends itself to have that flexibility, because also there's not a fixed fluid color here. It looks like he's using either maybe a performance tuned kind of distilled water, or you know, maybe a specific coolant that essentially is transparent, right? That's, I think, an awesome way to go, because it gives you the flexibility. You can just kind of change up the color profile really easily. So Andrew, thumbs up, man. Awesome build. Kudos. All right, so next up, let's go ahead and take a look at our next build and our next system. So give me 1 second here, guys. And we will jump into it here. Hey, Richard. Happy to have you here, man. Thanks for joining us all the way from South America, from Chile. Have some alfajores for me if you can get them there. All right, guys. So next up, let me go ahead and bring up our next build. Next build is going to be from, I believe, Evan. Evan, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So let's go ahead and load up his system right here. All right, loading this guy up. Okay, very cool. And let me bring up his submission form here so we can get all the insights into this build here. And this was actually his first build, so kudos here. So let's go a little bit with kind of the wide before we get into the instill, and we can see a very kind of cool setup here. We got a little bit of kind of some decal work or some kind of work that's done there on the side panel, right? Let's go into the next shot here. We can see now with an illumination, we've got that was at one side, and now here we're at the other side, and we can see in. So we've got a different orientation for the chassis. We can see that we've got definitely some water cooling hardware setup that's in there as well. Will you guys be releasing any new AIO products in white? So if you watched last week's stream, we talked a little bit more about the ROG, actually, excuse me, we talked about the ROG Moonlight white peripherals and how that's actually complementing a wide range of our other white hardware. So, you know, we already have white power supplies. We do have white AIO coolers. We have white chassis. We have white power supplies. We pretty much have almost every component now in some way, shape, or form with white. Specifically to your kind of question, do we have a white AIO cooler? Yes, we have the ROG Strix Lc Cooler in white. And so that is a model that is currently available. So you can see right here, this has got a very cool setup. It's very dark. It's got a motive kind of vibe to it, right? I think the vertical orientation here and the kind of setup definitely gives it a different vibe, and it also adds a layer of depth, which is interesting. Here we can see that we've got a little bit of a different color scheme when we go from kind of that more blue, kind of like rainy type vibe to then now here a little bit more of an edgy and hard kind of red kind of power vibe, right? And here, a little bit of a mixed color scheme, bringing in kind of that cyan, kind of that purple vibe there too. I think this one actually might be my favorite, but the blue is pretty cool too. Hey, Richard, I have the X570 and then a Hero board, 5950X, and a 3090 with the Helios, man. Yeah, definitely. If you haven't, Richard, you should join our group and make sure to submit it for the PCDIY Builder Spotlight so we can show it off here. I'd love to be able to show off your build. Here you can see he's got an ROG Strix board. He's got the Ryujin cooler. Overall, very cool setup, man. And here we can kind of see the finalized shot there. So let's take a look here and see what this guy is all about. So this was his first build. Does the system have a name? Experimental Reservoir is the name. And 3 words to describe his build. You know, I don't usually like to say this, but noob, custom, and test. So those are his 3 words there. What has he got going on here in terms of kind of the base hardware? It's an Asus Z390-F board. He's got also a ROG Strix 2070 Super card that he has installed in there. Spent about $2,500 to about $3,000 overall in terms of the price point for the budget. He loves that he was able to kind of create this silent waterfall reservoir without any previous knowledge or skill. And kind of the theme of the system here is a kind of light Punisher theme, right? Anything that he would like to change up on the build is to do more custom parts for kind of continuing to define kind of the aesthetic feel for the system. Maybe some few empty cartridges and bullet holes to kind of complete the look, but still while keeping a clean design aesthetic. I think he doesn't want to go and kind of go into like a damaged kind of vibe, right? But he wants to add maybe a little bit more of an edgy feel. Took about 2 weeks for him to kind of complete it. He overall predominantly uses it for gaming, likes to play Battlefield, Company Heroes. Thumbs up to you, sir. I love Company Heroes. One of my absolute favorite RTS titles of all time. I'm super excited for the next generation of Company Heroes. You know, still one of the games I still actively actually like playing. And his favorite overall kind of aspect of Asus is our hardware design. So again, for you guys that didn't kind of see it, let's go back a little bit to one of the previous shots so we can kind of show off what he's talking about there for kind of this reservoir effect. And you can see this right here kind of in this image. It's pretty cool little effect that he kind of got implemented right there. So it's pretty nice, man. Well done. Kudos, especially on your first build. That's the kind of like, you know, a little bit scary. I think actually kind of like going about that you would want to kind of try that out, especially with some pretty reasonable hardware that you got in there. So overall it was cool. So overall, man, kudos. Nicely done. Sorry, Richard, I'm not sure what your question is as far as what will be released. If you can clarify for me what it is you're asking about, what will be released, I'll try to go ahead and see if I can clarify for you. So again, very cool build, man. Thanks for submitting it here to the PCDIY Builders Spotlight. All right, and we've got one last build for you guys here before we wrap things up. So let's go ahead and get this one loaded up in here. So this is from, let me see, Jan Davids, I believe. Not sure how to pronounce the other portion of your name, so I don't want to mess it up. So I am just going to use that. Thank you for submitting your build. It's a very, very cool build. Oh, yeah. So if you're asking about the Crosshair 8 Extreme, it's actually already up. So we had actually a pre-order for Newegg. If that pre-order from Newegg already sold out, then a broader channel availability will be happening a little bit next week. So just kind of look over the next about 10 to about 14 days, and you'll start to see it actually listed at more e-tailers. But we have essentially already rolled out the Crosshair 8 Extreme to our channel partners. So you'll start to be seeing it listed at, Newegg, Amazon, Micro Center, any of the corresponding partners that traditionally carry our ROG and kind of premium series motherboards. Will be carrying it shortly. So just make sure to go ahead and keep it tuned in that regard. We're already pushing out inventory. But I don't have the link up here anymore, but Newegg did have it available for pre-order. If not, like I said, it'll be listed up as an active available model you can order very shortly. Okay. All right, so next let's take a look here at this system. Very cool here. We've got a little bit of a master shot. Side panels off. Kind of got that black-white aesthetic going on there. Very clean. Ooh, I'm liking that. Okay, nice. Got, looks like a 30 series card in there. Some nice red and black tubing that's in there. Got the AIO set up. Overall, this is nice and clean and well executed. Yeah, we've got some hard cable combs in there, I think, there as well. That's going to be an ROG Strix. Looks like probably a B550 series board, I believe. Oh, some nice rainbow. I like this. I like the actual contrast between the white and the black to kind of pull a color to be contrast and complementary to the RGB fans that we have here in the system. Yeah, and this is a cool color scheme. I'm digging this vibe. So black all around there with the mesh, and then we've got the RGB, and then we've got that kind of little bit of the gradient there. I think this comes off really clean. Very cool. A little bit of a close-up shot there. Yeah, so we've got an ROG Strix 30 series card that's in there. Overall, that's a really cool build, man. Yeah, I'm digging that. So let's see what we've got here for this one. So Jan Davids, this was actually also their first build, man. Kudos on a first build being this clean and well executed. Was your first build this clean and well executed? Because I'm not really seeing anything that I would heavily, say, hey, this needs to be changed up. Overall, looks like good airflow, reasonable balance. It's a lot of hardware to pack into a chassis like that, but it works, it fits, and it's got a good aesthetic there to it. I like the actual color scheme distribution. There's really nothing that I would change up here. I mean, this is well done. This is a system I would be putting together. So no name for the build. 3 words to describe it: RGB, nice and expensive. Let's go ahead and see here if we can take a look at the core hardware that we've got. So 5900X. He's using an S24 for the actual cooler. I was correct in terms of it's an ROG Strix B550-E gaming motherboard, 32 gigabytes of memory that he's got in here, a 1 terabyte M.2 SSD, ROG Strix 3080 Strix series graphics card, all inside of a Meshify 2 compact with tempered glass, light tint, 860 watt Fractal Designs Platinum Series PSU that's fully modular. He's then using the Prisma AL cables, Prisma AL fans in the system. And the cool thing about those Fractal fans is those fans use traditional RGB headers, so those can be wired directly into our boards, so you can still have kind of full RGB lighting control. So I'm a big fan of actually those fans. I didn't mean to make that pun, but it works there. So that is a nice kind of choice there, because then everything can kind of be tied in easily to ASUS Aura Sync via Armory Crate. Overall cost here that he was looking at was about $3,800 for his build. Most proud of the overall clean execution and the cohesive design, which I think you nailed, man. Kudos. No overall theme, though, that was kind of a focus there. Anything that he would change, he might actually upgrade the motherboard and move over to something that had a 10 gigabit integrated NIC. Took him about 3 hours and a lot of months in terms of just waiting to get all the components on hand. I'm sure, especially for that graphics card, that was one. In terms of what he's predominantly using the system for, IT stuff, virtualization, managing services and DNS, web development, custom WordPress themes, and then some gaming, of course. So Hitman, Grand Theft Auto, Watch Dogs Legion, and I'm sure quite a number of other games. Overall, his favorite features or functions from the ASUS side, he loves just the quality of our hardware, the performance, and kind of the engineering that we put in to be able to offer great hardware. So overall, man, very, very cool, man. Nice build. It's got a really clean, consistent level of polish to it, and I really like the overall kind of layout and the design theme. So, man, kudos. Yes, I would agree. Yeah, Richard, if you're kind of wondering, the Dark Hero and the Extreme really kind of are the best X570 motherboards that are on the market. They're both fantastic. It really just comes down to if you need the specialized features and functionality and the kind of additional specifications that the Extreme offers. But for many, even a standard Crosshair or definitely moving over into the Crosshair 8 Dark Hero really are going to be really awesome boards, and they're going to make a great foundation to any kind of AMD 5000 series CPU-centric build. All right, guys. Well, that overall wraps up the PCDIY Web Builder Spotlight for this week. So I want to thank you guys for, as always, tuning in. Hopefully I was able to answer pretty much anybody's questions that kind of popped up there. If you guys are watching us on demand, then make sure to go ahead and drop us a comment, a like, follow us, subscribe, do all that great stuff. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to go ahead and drop them in the comment section. We'll try to follow up with you when we can, respective to if you're checking us out on YouTube or if you're checking us out on Facebook. Or like I said, make sure to go ahead and join the PCDIY community and join our PCDIY group. And you can feel free to tag and ask questions there. Pretty much active there every day. And we have a fantastic set of members in there to be able to give you insight, be able to see awesome builds, and be able to really kind of get all the information when it comes to the entire range of the PCDIY experience. So with that, guys, fantastic. Thank you guys so much for checking out the stream. Take care. Take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your guys' Friday and have a fantastic weekend.